Josh, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about the film. What I've seen of it is just phenomenal. So
Brilliant.
I know I know you've talked a lot recently about having grown up, like myself, with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, but
Sure.
I was curious to begin with, what was it like that first day being on set with actors like Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe compared to that first day on set with Civil War when you first played Spider-Man?
It wasn't too dissimilar, walking on set as Spider-Man in Civil War and meeting Chris Evans and doing that scene with him was crazy, because I was a huge fan of his movies and to meet him in the flesh and he was in the Captain America costume and he was also so nice and so welcoming. It was awesome. It was a great time. And then it was similar, walking on set, playing this character. We're here with Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm established. I know what I'm doing. And then all of a sudden I'm thrown the curveball of fighting villains from the Raimi universe, and it was crazy. I mean, I had so many pinch me moments where I'd be standing there looking at Alfred doing scenes with him, and I really had to kind of take myself out of it and try and just focus as an actor rather than a fan because I was freaking out inside.
I can only imagine. And I know, of course, recently Joe Russo said that he thinks that your Spider-Man has taken over from Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man as the soul of the Marvel Universe and very much the favorite character. So I was wondering what your thoughts on that are and whether you ever talked to Robert about what it's like to actually be in that position.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm the face of the universe. I know that, fans are really supportive and have responded massively to this franchise. I'm honored that Joe thinks that. But the beautiful thing about the MCU is whoever is the leader, if there ever is a leader again, you're never alone. You have so many people that you can rely on and lean on, and people that I've now worked with for years and years. So I don't necessarily feel those pressures, but should I feel those pressures, then yes, I'll call Downey and ask him. And I called him the other day for a piece of advice, and he was very kind.
Awesome. And I know for myself as a fan, the Green Goblin has always been my favorite villain. But I was curious for you, what was it like working with Willem Dafoe and getting to explore that dynamic between Peter Parker and Norman Osborn? Because that rivalry from the comics is just, I think it is iconic, like Superman and Lex Luthor and Batman and the Joker.
I mean, it was incredible. It was a dream come true. Firstly, getting to fight against the Green Goblin, and then secondly, that Green Goblin getting to be Willem Dafoe was amazing. It was honestly incredible. And like I said before, so many pinch me moments. Like he would say things that he had said in the previous movies, and everyone would get chills down the back, their spines. And I mean, it was awesome. It really was incredible. And I couldn't dream of a better version.
I bet. And I'm not going to ask you about Andrew and Toby because I know you've been dealing with that for a long time, but I am curious whether you revisited their films at all, maybe for any sort of inspiration with when you're obviously playing Spider-Man, facing these villains in terms of your movements or the fight scenes or anything from those films really that might have inspired your interactions with these characters.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think before I'd started shooting Spider-Man No Way Home, I had before the first day, I had rewatched all of their movies. And I think I've done that for all of my Spider-Man movies, because their films are so fantastic and they're so rich with details that, I've missed in the past. So I go back and watch them and I steal little things here and there that I love. Yeah, so I definitely have revisited their films.
Yeah, and of course, we know that Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige, they like to plan ahead. So I was curious how and when you found out what the plan was for this film, because I know there's that little viral clip of you, I think, from the Far From Home junket. People are convinced that you were trying to hide something about the multiverse. But I was wondering when you did actually find out.
I knew I had an idea that that was what they were trying to do. It's been on the table for a long time, but it was always one of those things where it was just a pipe dream. It was just something that was like, oh, that's a nice idea, but it'll never happen. And then as time went on, it started to become more real. And as it became more real, it became more scary. And as it became more scary, it became more exciting. And we're here today. We're promoting a film that I think is fantastic, and I'm very proud of it. And I think the audiences will not be disappointed with with the surprises we still have left in store.
I bet. And of course, with John Watts now getting ready to move on to Fantastic Four for Marvel
Yeah.
Studios, I am curious whether you'd be interested in maybe having a cameo appearance there of Spider-Man, particularly as that issue of Amazing Spider-Man 1 is that iconic piece of imagery of Spider-Man attempting to go and join the Fantastic Four. So I was curious what you think about that.
I think for me, as you know, the guy that plays Spider-Man, so you could say that I know him the best. I think what's important is that he needs to take a break, and we need to allow the audiences to let him breathe and figure out tonally how we're going to bring this character back, if we do bring this character back. So I think him popping up for a cameo would defeat the purpose. While I would love to be in that film, I love John, and I'd be really excited to see what he does with the Fantastic Four. I think what we need to do with Spider-Man is let it breathe and almost let the audiences tell us what they want.
Yeah, of course. And this film, from the preview I saw, obviously it does pick up straight after literally where Far From Home ended.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's a very shocking moment for Peter and quite traumatic, but there's some really great bits of humor in there as well. So I was wondering what you enjoyed most about exploring that immediate aftermath of his secret being revealed to the world.
I mean, it's really exciting. It's something that's never been done before in a Spider-Man movie. And, as an actor and as a storyteller, whenever you're given a new bit of ammunition to tell these stories, it's really helpful. So to dive into this new world of Peter Parker being the most famous person on the planet is pretty cool.
I can only imagine. And of course, Spider-Man's a character who hasn't been played in live action on the big screen by many actors, just yourself, Tobey and Andrew. So of course you will have seen the sort of impact their versions have had on the audience and moviegoers. But what do you hope your Spider-Man is remembered for, regardless of what the future holds in store?
That's a great question, and someone asked me that earlier, and I don't really know how to answer it. I just hope that people have the same feeling of nostalgia that I do towards Tobey and Andrew's movies. I was a kid when those films came out, and they made me so happy. And I remember coming home and bouncing around and jumping off the couch and pretending to be Spider-Man. So if there are young kids that remember that through my movies, then that'll be enough for me.
Awesome. And I've got to ask, Anthony Mackie, he obviously became the new Captain America earlier this year, and he keeps jumping on social media, I think, trying to bait you, saying that he got the high score on your new Disneyland ride. I'm wondering if you can beat it. So I'm curious, have you beaten his high score? And do you think he's just angling for some sort of Spider-Man Captain America team up down the line?
Listen, I love Anthony Mackie, and if there's a Spider-Man Captain America team up down the line, then we should absolutely make that happen. But he can brag about beating me on my own ride that I haven't actually ridden yet. But until he's got his own ride, he's got nothing. He hasn't got a leg to stand on.
And one very quick final question for you. Spider-Man, once again in this film, he gets some amazing new costumes, and you have gone through some really spectacular looks in the past. But which is your favorite? And are there any from the comics you're maybe still hoping you get to try on down the line?
I think my favorite, would have to be the red and black suit. I really like, just because I've worn it so much, and I think we've really kind of changed the image of what Spider-Man is. But then also the red and blue suit from Homecoming, the original suit for me, holds a lot of nostalgia, just because that's where I started my Spider-Man career. And I haven't worn that suit in years, actually, but I'd like to see if I can dig it out somewhere and try it on again.
Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, especially as I can tell you as much as a fan of this character as I am and as all the fans are. So thank you so much. And I cannot wait to see the rest of the movie.
That. Thank you. That was a great interview. Thank you.